Coaching Neurodiversity, a physician's journey. Well, we're going to be listening in on an interview with physician, not really turned coach, but integrating coaching into her physician's practice, Dr. Mary Jones. We are bringing you today arguably one of the hottest new areas of focus for coaches applied to a life issue, in this case, neurodiversity. And I know you're in for a treat today.
It really was a treat to listen to Dr. Mary Jones, a pediatrician in private practice for more than 20 years, talk about this issue. She and her husband, Dr. Jeffrey Jones, operate BrightStartsHealth.com, which is a medical practice specializing in diagnosis, treatment, and now coaching of persons with autism spectrum disorders and ADHD. As you said, Chris, neurodiversity. They're located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, but Dr. Jones is actually licensed in 23 states in the United States, with more in process, and is doing groundbreaking work, particularly in parenting in the neurodiverse family. As a heads up, what I really loved about this conversation is that while Mary is talking about her work as a pediatrician using a more coach approach, what she learned applies to all of us professionally, no matter who we serve, personally, no matter who we live with or work with, and really spiritually, because we always want to listen more carefully to our Lord, ask better questions of Him, and enjoy His presence. So whatever your current occupation, I know you are going to enjoy this interview.
A few years ago, maybe like 4 years ago, I wanted to sort of expand what I could offer to my patients and my families. And I thought that I was going to get a counseling degree for medical professionals. And I was doing my research and going and trying to find out, about that and how would I start and which program would I choose. And through that search, I came across coaching. And then as I started to delve more into coaching, I came across PCCI. And learning about what coaching was, because I had to kind of do a crash course because I had no idea, because I thought coaching, life coaching, teaching people how to do sports better, teaching people or helping people organize their lives. Like I didn't really know what I was really getting myself into. I'll say that. And so once I learned about it and that it was listening with curiosity, that it was holding space, that it was allowing people to see the possibilities, hope, set goals, like it just perfectly aligned with what I do in my medical practice, which is diagnose and treat autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. And those families, people have lost hope. They've lost their sort of moral, or not moral compass, but their life compass because of this diagnosis, or because of the sort of chaos that comes along with that in a family with a loved one that may be affected by these diagnoses. And the ability to not only medically help them as well as treat them or coach them through the stressors that can cause, and help them to see hope in the future. That's what drew me right there to coaching.
So many questions that I want to toss out, and Jen and I are just going to get to kind of ping pong for all of your benefits here. The 45 minutes is going to fly by. So, Mary, I was mentioning a book actually that came out several years ago, but we became aware of it here at the Institute because we train quite a few physicians in different areas of specialization, like yours in pediatrics. And the book was called When Doctors Don't Listen. And it was, of course, I mean, they listen, but they listen diagnostically oftentimes, listening through filters. And we're all aware that all of us, whatever filter we're coming to a conversation with, consciously or unconsciously, we will listen through those filters, our own biases. We cannot not have them. And as the saying goes, you will hear what you're listening for, and you will not hear what you are not listening for.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, I think, puts the finger on the pain point of the challenge for us as coaches, because what we want to listen for is just whatever needs to be opened up and explored. That's really what I think, Mary, you hit on there with regard to the way that you're listening. You want to listen with genuine curiosity, not listening immediately to be able to diagnose which box does the person fit in with regard to, in your case, neurodiversity. But I wonder if you could start there. For you, specializing in pediatrics, working with parents who have, as you referenced there, kind of a vision for the way they hope the script of life and parenting is going to go. And then they suddenly get this, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't part of my script. I didn't think this was going to happen. Touch on just kind of some of the main things that neurodiversity would include and what you have seen coaching begin to help you listen for differently than you might have if you were more just diagnostically oriented as the physician you were without the coaching mixed in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so neurodiversity is kind of like the buzzword of the moment, and it can mean different things. So for me and what I do, neurodiversity means having a ADHD type brain or an autism spectrum type brain, or brain difference. That it can also be encompass the common co-occurring conditions that kind of like to travel alongside ADHD and autism, like obsessive compulsive disorder, like anxiety disorder, depressive disorders, generalized anxiety disorder. All those things like to kind of travel along on the same highway or pathway as autism and ADHD. And so, if you are affected or have a loved one that is affected by any of those things, then neurodiversity is sort of the term, the buzzword that we use to kind of talk about all of those things.
So parents are bringing in children of whatever ages to you, either with diagnosis already, maybe something from the school system, a school counselor that did some testing or whatever, or they're
Mhm,
just bringing them in saying, we're seeing this pattern of behavior. We don't know what to make of it. And you're doing your own evaluative process there.
mhm,
But step us into that and why, with all of your vast training that you already had, you began looking specifically at an additional skill set. Initially, I think you thought it was going to be counseling, but it
mhm,
was coaching and skills. Where did that plug in? But start with the parents bringing their kids in and kind of the way you show up, if you will.
mhm, mhm. And so normally when people get to me or come to me, they may have gone through lots of testing. They may have some idea of what's going on. And so the road to seeking out that diagnosis or treatment is different. However, they all come with something that is very similar, and that is a desperation. That is, maybe I've lost hope. I don't know what else to do. We have tried everything we know, and it is affecting not only our child but our family dynamic. We need help, and so the thing that coaching has added to, because when they come in and they talk to me, and within the first 5-10 minutes, I usually kind of know, like, okay, this child more than likely has ADHD. This child more than likely is autistic. And then of course I will go through the testing that I do, but the main thing that they want is someone to listen to their story without, like you said, pushing them into a diagnosis right away. They want the dignity of, let me tell you my story. Let me tell you my struggles. Let me tell you the great things about my kid, my child, and my family. Let me tell you what our hopes were, and can we get back to those in this chaos? And so, what coaching has added to that, to my practice, is that curiosity of listening. That's the first thing. When I showed up, um, in the essentials class, like I showed up, and that it was like ding, 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 listening with curiosity. uh, as physicians, we're taught to listen for a diagnosis. What does this person have medically? But just being able to sit there and hold space for them and listen and and partner with them in their story and allow them to um not vent, but there's a dignity in that. And so being able to do that and then ask those curious questions and find out, apart from all that's going on right now, what where do you want your family to go? What goals do you have for your child? What goals do you have for yourself as a parent? So that is really what coaching has done for me, and I hope it made a difference in the way I approach my patients and the feeling that they get when they leave my practice.
Mm. Well, I don't know, and maybe we've all had this experience. There's something affected me deeply about thinking of going to someone you're trusting when you're in that desperate situation, going to a doctor or something, and then having the dignity of being listened to. I'm just curious, like, I would love, throw it in the chat. What's coming up as you're thinking of what it and however you show up or whatever you're doing in the world, like what kind of shift could you make in having that mindset of being able to just be fully present and listening to that? It sounds like such a beautiful experience. I would love to know if you have any examples or like a story of how when you incorporated coaching, what it did for a family, or any stories that come up for you.
Yeah, so actually recently, people are finding me in different ways for different things that I didn't even like originally think that I would be doing, and a lot of it is people are finding me for only coaching, not necessarily the medical diagnosis. And so I had a young man. His mother reached out to me. He's 21. He's a black young man, and he has been struggling since he was very young, and he's been, underemployed, not able to complete his desired course of study in school because of his ADHD diagnosis. And you know, when his mother reached out to me, she was has been desperate. I can't even remember how she found me, maybe through one of my colleagues. And, the first thing that I was able to do for her is sit and listen to her story. And that is what I try to do, whether it is in my medical practice. That is what I try to do if it's someone who reaches out to me for coaching. That's when you allow that for people and you're not looking at, like, if I go into it and I have a preconceived idea, a preconceived notion about what they're going to say and what they need from me, then I'm not going to be able to really hear the heart of what they're saying. And so with this mama, she was like, I need to meet you before you meet my son. And she really was able to share the heart of the desires that she had for her son, the desires of what she still has for her son, and how can that, in light of his ADHD diagnosis, how can he get there? Being able to just sit there and listen for 15 minutes without interrupting, without you know, putting my spin on it. Oh yeah, he's got ADHD, he needs this medication and blah. No, just sitting with her in that moment and holding that space for her. um and this has happened, many times. By the end of the call, they're just like so relieved. Thank you so much for listening. Nobody listens. And in this society today, we are so fast paced and quick, and we're guilty in the medical profession of not listening.
Guilty in the medical profession, but guilty in any setting that, I mean, you are just speaking, I think, to every single one of us. If there was only one takeaway from me for this entire time, it would be the importance of what you're speaking to with regard to the dignity of allowing someone to be truly heard. And I want to expand upon it because you're saying it's so that we can really hear more of the fullness of who the person is and what's there. But from a coaching approach, it's also so that they can hear. The experience of being really deeply listened to is so validating that it's only when we hear it coming out of our mouths and then we can confirm it going back in here like, yeah, that is what I want. Yeah, that is what I believe. Yeah, that is the vision I can still hope for and move toward. There is a process that occurs only through that kind of curious, deep, genuine listening without agenda, without, and in this case, it's a beautiful agenda that we have. You do have to diagnose. It's not that you never will, but that meeting them first on the human plane, I believe allows. I'll speak here as a therapist looking at the medical profession. I believe it allows us to tap what arguably will be the more powerful long-term intervention or tool or set of tools than any medication or program or systematic, any kind of thing, because it's the person. And in this case, it's their parent as well, or the family system. Can you talk about that, what you've seen? And again, maybe like Jen said, give us a story of somebody, but the experience of a family being able to suddenly hear from themselves, to themselves, through themselves, but because you're listening this way, then marshaling more resources, drawing upon more than just, we finally got a diagnosis. We finally got a medication. Give us the bigger picture there.
Yeah, so that is sort of the goal of my practice, is not only to diagnose and then you're just kind of set out there into the bye, but to diagnose them and then open the door to what they need, the therapies, the resources. A personal story. So my oldest son has ADHD. He was diagnosed with ADHD when he was in 6th grade because he was able to cope. He's really intelligent. He was able to cope until he was about in the 6th grade. So we got him diagnosed. He started medication, and that made a big difference in his as far as him being able to cope with school and blah blah. And so he was able to go on, and then about 11th grade he started to be to experience some difficulty again. He couldn't really stay organized. He was lots of balls were getting dropped, and we were having lots of difficulty. By that time, I had been trained at PCCI. And so the first thought that came to my mind was, I got to find him a coach. Like instead of like, oh, let's increase his medication. Let's add something in. I was like, no, this is not a medical issue. Obviously he has ADHD, but I need someone to help him set goals.
Wow.
So I go on to the PCCI Facebook page and I was like, hey guys, my son needs coaching. He's got ADHD. And I got like 5 or 10 responses, like almost immediately, about coaches who do that. And then found the absolute best coach for him. She's not even PCCI, but somebody told me about, she specializes in coaching young older teenagers to young adults with ADHD. And so when he just started his first year of college, and it was life-changing for him. He calls her at the first of the semester, and he started that in high school. They go over his syllabus, he makes a plan, and boom, it's done. And he has no problems. But so that's a personal story, sorry. But that is where, like, so the medical diagnosis came in. He's on his medicine, he's doing great, but he just needed to access further resources, right? And
Yes.
so that's what I try.
Who wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? I got to underscore this again for everybody here who, as we're listening. This is a multidisciplinary mindset here. This is looking for differential diagnosis, not just the one thing and all, but looking at a holistic approach to every person. Again, all of us, whether you're in medical, doesn't matter, whatever your backgrounds. And there's an old saying, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem is a nail.
Mhm.
You have expanded your toolkit and you recognize my child doesn't just need a few more pounds of the hammer on that nail of this is the diagnosis and let's increase his medication, as you said. Instead, you expanded to several other tools in the toolkit,
Mhm.
and his life is so much more full. He's actually in college now.
Yeah, he just started like in August. Yep, we didn't break him, but he's my oldest, and so it's like, hey. But yeah, so you're absolutely correct. If all you got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and I did not want everything to look like a nail in my family, and certainly for the families that I serve. And so, and even like. Maybe I'm a like lifelong student or something, but my husband and I are he's a doctor too. We are now getting certified in lifestyle medicine so that we can even more branch out to a holistic approach with nutrition and sleep and, all those things. And so we're actually undertaking that now as well. And so if
Wow.
I could say to people, anything is that it is your obligation to know your patients, know your clients, and equip yourself to help them in whatever way they need, even if that means sending them out. But if there's some training or certification that you could get in addition to what you're already doing, I just, they already know you, they already like you, they already trust you. And so if you expand what you offer, then that's less anxiety for your patient, they or your client. They can just stay with you.
Mary's one of those people that I was like, do you have another 8 hours in your day that I am not seeing in my own? But I love that mindset of continuing to like grow because we take that responsibility that we have been given to help other people. So to continue to just invest in ourselves as we are able to serve others. What a beautiful mindset. And I because I know you, I can ask this question live, but I would love to just like, where do you see your faith coming into this and kind of, I guess, being part of that mindset?
So my faith, my in Jesus and as a Christian, um influences everything that I do, um including my medical practice, my coaching practice, the way I interact with the world. And the first thing that I tell coaching clients, patients, is that I know that God brought you to me. There's an obligation there. And the way that I approach it is I hold space with the Holy Spirit and I tell them that it is not me. It is the Holy Spirit working in and through me and working in and through them that is going to get them really what they need. They're there for a reason. It's an encounter with Him, ultimately. Now I can help them, using my knowledge and training and all of that. But I want them to come in one way and leave changed because they've had an encounter with Him. And so I don't know if I can make it any more simple than that. That's the way that I look at it.
The wholehearted approach. I can see the wholehearted approach, and now how you're using that in your practice to kind of have that whole person centric just approach to even your own medical practice.
Mary, I think there's any number of questions I would love to toss to you. And Jen, maybe you can check the chat if there's anything really compelling there to grab. But I'm going to put this out to you while Jen is doing that. Throughout the years, we have trained many physicians, as I said, in several different areas of specialization, as well as obviously general practitioners. We've also had the privilege of working with many physicians who are involved with the Christian Medical and Dental Association, CMDA, and on mercy ships. So these would be missionary-oriented persons who generally have their own private practices, but then give up some period of time once a year, once every few years or whatever, to instead of going off on a vacation, go and give to the least of these all around the world. One of the most common conversations that we have with those persons, and I think Jen was alluding to it here with her question about do you have 8 more hours in your day that we don't have, is the challenge of time. And so many times physicians will say, I'm packed to the gills with clientele. I don't have the time to be able to listen like you're talking about here. I don't have the time to do anything other than rush in, review the chart quickly, ask a few questions, write a script out, and go off to the next one. Could you talk about, again, for any of us, no matter what it is that screams for our attention and makes us believe I don't have the time to listen at this deep level, what instead is kind of a paradigm shifting way that you view the importance of what you're doing with your time, this quality listening in the time that you take for it?
And I get that. I worked in practices all through my career up to now. And I've opened a solo practice, but it's the way you show up. It's not every 15-minute slot is a different patient, right? And you've got to keep up that schedule. Or when you're coaching 50-minute slot, but it's the way you show up. So maybe there's 2 providers, physicians, nurse practitioners, whatever, and their schedules are exactly identical over the course of a day. One shows up intentionally for every 15-minute slot. One is just kind of plugging through, right? Both of them have the same quota that they need to meet. Both of them have the same, amount of patients that they need to see. And I've had to do this myself. It's how you show up for that 15 minutes. Like 15 minutes can feel like 5 minutes, or it can feel like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, for me, it was always keeping that intentionality that I'm going to sit and I'm going to give my whole heart to this patient for 15 minutes. And each patient gets that same, each patient gets that same, not an honor, but it's an honor for me. So I'm going to honor each patient with that same mindset as I go throughout my day. And so, yeah, we can't really change the way that medicine is set up in this country. And it is like very different in other countries. And it's also very different in practices that, they don't take insurance, but most of us work in that world. And so it is about that intentionality. It doesn't take an hour all the time. It takes looking them in the eye. It takes, wow, that is really tough. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that. Like that can, I've had moms come in the office and they're just all tense, and I've been there. I have 5 kids. They're just all tense. They've got a bunch of kids. They got a bunch of responsibilities, and even they're rushing, and maybe even helping them to slow down a little bit. And the weight that sort of can come off their shoulders when they realize they're in a safe space. Yeah. So I don't even know if I answered your question.
I believe you touched on pieces of it. And what I hear over and over is the honoring of their humanity, back to your word from the beginning, dignity, that we're showing in our use of self here. I'm thinking of the metaphor of the fishes and loaves. Like the Lord can take our little and he can multiply and do much.
Oh my gosh.
But I really want to underscore what you said about looking them in the eyes. My wife, Rachel, and I recently went to an excellent physician who never made eye contact with either one of us. Now, she knew her stuff, and boy, I mean, as soon as she opened her mouth and started explaining what was going on, we knew, wow, this woman is all over it. She's got it in terms of collection of systems or symptoms and what they diagnose. Yeah. But when we leave there, our personhood, the conversation we're going to have as we drive the car home, the life that we're going to live in, that's what you're marshaling or tapping when you look into their eyes and connect with their personhood. That's a much more holistic set of things you are inviting into the what's wrong and what do we do conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
What a gift that was to listen to again. And just to let you know, the third voice you heard in that conversation that I forgot to introduce was Jennifer Freeman, the Dean of Community here at the Professional Christian Coaching Institute. And what they reminded us of is that transformation often starts with presence. In a clinic, in a coaching session, around our kitchen tables, and of course in prayer. Mary reminded me what it looks like to honor the person in front of me, to ask one more curious question, and to hold space with the Holy Spirit. As a matter of fact, my goal for myself this week is just to try offering someone my full attention for just a few minutes, no distractions whatsoever. And of course, always do the same with the Lord. Be quick to listen. And I think it just helps our hope and the possibilities and potential in front of us rise.
Yeah, there was so much that I took from that, but so much of it was about our way of being. She emphasized over and over again, it's the way you show up. I loved when she said, 15 minutes can feel like 5 minutes, or it can feel like 30 minutes. And that really has to do with what's our mindset as we present ourselves to be used by the Lord in interfacing with every single client, whatever our professional background may be. That way of showing up, our way of being, allows then the work of the Holy Spirit through that trained coach approach that we're bringing to bring all kinds of fruit from those conversations. Really, really good material here.
So true, Chris. And I also appreciated Mary's vulnerability, talking about her own journey and her family's journey. Neurodiversity is something that impacts a lot of people these days. And so if you're interested for yourself, for your clients, for someone you love, you can actually learn more about Mary Jones at brightstartshealth.com. That's brightstartshealth.com. And as always, I'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, I too appreciated that vulnerability. I know that I think they estimate now that about 1 in 8 persons in Western culture, at least, are affected by neurodiversity in some of its forms, either on the autism spectrum or, as she said, ADHD kinds of issues. So if this brought something up for you, listener, and you're interested in more, yeah, I really encourage our people to go out and connect with. This is another sister here. She's been with us at PCCI for 3 years now, integrating a coach approach into her practice as a pediatrician. You can find her at brightstartshealth.com. And I do look for more to come in the years ahead as we, as an institute here, look at integrating more of that coach approach into work with all different aspects of living with neurodiversity.
And looking at the calendar, Chris, it occurs to me we are approaching the holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving season. And as always, I think we have a gift we would like to give our listeners.
Thank you for that cue. Yes, indeed, we do. The holidays are upon us, depending on when you're listening to this, of course. Right now, we're recording and releasing this in the holiday season of 2025. And so what that means is that for the month of November, any of you listening who are already alums of PCCI, you've taken at least our introductory course, The Essentials of Life Coaching or The Essentials of Leadership Coaching, why all of our advanced and elective classes are on discount for you. And so that happens throughout this month of November. But hey, don't despair, those of you who've not yet trained with us. If this has triggered in you, as it did in Mary Jones about 3.5 years ago, that you may want to take some training and coaching, not necessarily to become a full-time coach, but to integrate a coach approach into whatever other work you are doing, well, hey, our introductory courses, The Essentials of Life Coaching and The Essentials of Leadership Coaching, are all discounted. In fact, the biggest discounts that we offer all year long, here right after the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States. On what they call Cyber Monday, we have a huge sale, and then throughout the first couple of weeks of December, all offerings of our Essentials classes for 2026 are discounted, and you can find out all the information about those and take advantage of those discounts on our website, professionalchristiancoaching.com. 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 All of our essentials offerings for 2026 are discounted. I get very, very excited when I think about all that God is doing in this coach approach integration to all different areas of people helping that we know our listeners are involved in. And I just really am looking forward to what God's going to do in this new year that now is just around the corner. With that exciting look forward, we'll just say, as we always do, you keep raising the standard of coaching and changing the world.
God's richest blessings to you.